In this episode, I tell you how I had trouble going over bridges. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? My name's Michael Sahno, and welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast, brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. So head on over to www.sandlfit.com, that's sandlfit.com, to start your military fitness journey. Okay, hey, welcome back to the show. So I have some really awesome news about something from my personal life that ties into sports psychology that will also help those of you who are suffering with anxiety. So, first, I'm going to have a sip of this coffee. Peter Madeira, this is for you. Okay, so let's get right into it. So as I said in the intro, I'm going to say I used to have trouble with bridges. Okay, let's just say that. So for those of you who don't know, I am a disabled veteran, and I don't like telling people that. I don't like that being the first thing out of my mouth. I have wrestled with whether or not to get veteran on my license plate. I have it on my license, but I don't know. I don't. Yeah, as I sit here in an OD green polo shirt, a multicam hat, and a coyote brown watch, I think I pretty much scream veteran. But I don't like to broadcast it. So, but I am a veteran, and I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a veteran of 6 years in the Navy and 4 years in the Army. And that has brought some bumps and some bruises, some physical, some mental, emotional, but all of which I have overcome, and implore you and work hard with you to try to overcome as well. So one of those, so I'm gonna take you back a little ways. So I told you I'm a disabled veteran, and in order to do that, you have to go to the VA, and you have to go and you have to get a rating. Okay, so a service connected rating, and it's a percentage, and mine doesn't matter at all. But in order to give you the rating, they have to find something wrong with you. And of course, you ask a psychologist if there's something wrong with you, they will always find something wrong with you. But what they did is they found that I had what's called generalized anxiety disorder, agoraphobia, and PTSD. And I specifically remember that meeting, and I remember one of the questions that they asked. And they asked, do you do this? How do you feel about this? Do you do this? And then they got to bridges. And I said, before he even got the question out, I just said, I don't go over them, because I would get nervous going over them. Living in New York City, when, at the time, I was going back and forth over bridges a lot, I just didn't like going over them in a car that I was driving. Didn't mind being in a car that was going over them, or a bus or whatever, but it was me driving them. I don't know. So I guess, well, we'll get to that. So I live across the river from West Point, the U.S. Military Academy. where Army officers are made. So I live across the river from West Point, and they have a lot of things that I can, as a veteran, a disabled veteran, I can go use the exchange. I can go use the commissary, the grocery store on base. I can get gas there. I can do all kinds of stuff. There are a lot of things that I'm allowed to use with my status, just my veteran status, that I'm able to partake in. And in order to get there, there is this thing called the Bear Mountain Bridge. Okay. And that is the simplest, fastest route to get there. The Bear Mountain Bridge takes about 20 to 25 minutes. If there's traffic, maybe 30 minutes to get there. So it's not a far drive. It's a quick drive. But I got to get to the other side of the river. So I got to go over the Bear Mountain Bridge. And this bridge, just to describe it, and if you Google it, you'll see it. It comes out from a cliff on one side, a couple hundred feet in the air, and goes to a cliff on the other side that's a couple hundred feet in the air. And you're just out there. You're right out there. You know when you go over, like you can go over the George Washington Bridge, and if you're on one of the lower levels, you won't even, you'll know you're on a bridge, but you won't get or if you're on the Triborough Bridge, you don't get this feeling because there's so much going on. There's so much traffic, but this is a 2-lane bridge that is kind of long. And it's a little daunting if you have issues with heights or you have issues driving on bridges. I have both. So it's a lot of fun. So hold on. More coffee. For those that are listening. And it's a sneaky bridge, in terms of when from my side, from the other side, you just go through this roundabout, and then you're on the bridge, and then you're over it. But on my side of the river, you start driving up on the highway 90, up, and then up, and then up, and then up, and then all of a sudden you're out. You're on the side of a cliff, and the bridge is there, and there's only 2 ways to go: left down the mountain on the other side, and straight out across the river on this bridge. So it was difficult for me, and I got surgery on my eyes, because I had cataract, real bad cataract. So I got the cataract removed, and I could see like better than I've ever been able to see. I actually had something called, basically I had child developing cataract, which means it started developing when I was a kid. So I've never been able to see colors like I see now. But now I'm on this bridge, and I had trouble, driving over it before the surgery, and then it just got, I got up there and I was like, holy shit, I can see everything. This is terrifying. So I drove over it with a buddy of mine from the Army, and because we were going over there to do some stuff. And the entire time I'm driving over, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like humming in order to calm myself. And so I'm like, I'm nervous to go over to this bridge. I'm nervous to go over and do the things that I need to do. And then the not the most recent time I went over, but right after I got the surgery, I threw my son in the car. He's 20, and we went over there, and we drove over the bridge, and I was okay. But then we decided to take the northern route home rather than come back over the bridge. We were going to go over a different bridge, the Newburgh Bridge, which is a lot bigger and easier for me. and wound up on the side of Storm King, this huge mountain that's butted up against West Point, on a highway that rides the cliff. And it's only the only thing that stops you from going over the cliff is this hip high rock wall. So, so I went from that being terrified, all right, I'll make this, it's fine, got to be brave for my son, to all of a sudden being on the side of a mountain on a cliff, driving on a highway. So I was like, screw West Point, I'm never going there again. Screw it, I'm just not going. This was so terrifying. And I was identifying with what I said at the VA and using a diagnosis to reinforce I can't behavior. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it was traumatic. Driving up there and then driving up Storm King, driving over the bridge and then driving over Storm King. It was kind of traumatic for me. So I don't discount anyone who says, "Oh, you don't understand," it's trauma is real when you do things that scare the shit out of you. So what happened? So what caused me to overcome that? What allowed me to overcome that? Well, I'm going to tell you what allowed me to overcome that. And it was my wife, my beautiful spouse. She hates to be called spouse, but my wife, my beautiful wife. So my wife was having an exceptionally bad week at work. She's an advertising executive. She runs operations for a really big advertising agency in New York City. So I had at West Point, there's a marksmanship range that's open to the public. It's open to cadets. The Army is about, combat. So what are one of the things that you need to do in combat? You need to be able to shoot. So I shoot. It's one of the things that I love to do. It's actually really calming and relaxing. And that's a funny story because at the VA, my buddy from the Army, the guy I drove over the bridge with, I told you about, he said, don't tell the VA that, you've got guns. Just don't tell them they're going to, all this stuff. So, mental health, gun, just don't say anything. Well, I'm not that kind of guy. I tend to be err on the side of caution, be 100% honest. It's got me into trouble. Don't worry. So we wrap up that entire conversation and I say to him, I said, you didn't ask me if I had any guns. And he said, do you have any guns? And I said, yes. Okay. Was there a problem with that? And I said, no. I said, okay, you're fine. Do you want to talk about it? I said, actually, it's funny because shooting relaxes me and puts me in a non-anxious state. And he said, well, there you go. You're fine. So, nutshell, I love shooting. Been shooting since I was a Boy Scout. I was actually, and that's another story. So, you're getting all of it in this episode. When I was a little kid, I went away to Boy Scout camp and I was terrified. I, slept, walked, wound up stepping in a fire bucket and woke up terrified, screaming. But I was super duper homesick. And one of the things that they did to help me overcome being homesick was they took me to the marksmanship range, the 22 range. So I wound up shooting little 22 rifles. And they said, hey, he's not homesick and he's not scared. He's not crying. Leave him there all day if you don't mind having him. And they didn't. So I went there and wound up shooting the entire time I was a Boy Scout summer camp. So I love shooting. love shooting in the Navy, love shooting in the Army. And, when I got the chance up here, I would go shooting whenever I could. And then somebody told me about what's called the Transru Marksmanship Range Center at West Point. And it's awesome. It's really great. State-of-the-art facility. And the people are really wonderful because they're dealing with cadets. Some of these kids have never touched a firearm in their life. And so they're really good, warm people. And they were having a course that I wanted to attend. Florida-Utah course. So I really, really wanted to attend that course. So I called my buddy in the Army. I said, because we had just driven over there a couple of weeks before, and that was when I was humming. This was after I went across with my son. I got up the gumption and said, I'm going to go back. And I went with my Army buddy, and that's actually where we went. We went to check out the range. And I found out about the course, and I said, hey, I signed up for the course, the Utah, Florida course over at West Point. I want you to do it with me. And he said, oh, that's great. But he could never commit. And he could never commit because his schedule he wasn't sure if it was going to allow him. But this was terrifying to me. Because not only do I have to go across a bridge that's going to make me incredibly uncomfortable, I have to be in a social environment from 9 in the morning until 6 in the afternoon. So for those of you who don't know, agoraphobia is a social anxiety. So my wife knows about this. I get nervous before I have to go do something. Fear of failure, all those things. You know what I mean? But once I get there, oh my gosh, I'm like a pig in shit. I'm just super happy. I'm the life of the party. I, make friends. I do it's wonderful. I love being social. There is such a huge part of me that needs to be social, but it is getting to the ball, Cinderella, that is difficult for me. So, I literally made a phone call the week before. Yeah, the week before I was supposed to go do this course because my friend, he backed out. He said, I can't do it. I'd love to, but I can't do it. So now I got to go to this thing alone. I got to go over this bridge. This is terrifying to me. So I called and I said, hey, can I get out of it? And the people at the range, the Marksmanship Center at West Point, gave me an out. All I had to do was send an email. That's all I had to do. I would not have the anxiety anymore. I wouldn't have to be around the people. I wouldn't have to cross the bridge. I was so embarrassed with myself after having made that call that I called my wife. And I said to her, I remember exactly what I said to her. I said, I think I did something really bad. And she's, of course, terrified. But I said, I called West Point and I asked if I could back out of going to the course. And they gave me an out. They said, yes, you can. All you've got to do is send an email. My wife was so furious. She was so ticked off because to her, it was a stupid, pardon my language right now, a stupid fucking bridge. She said, I've got to deal with all of this craziness at my job, and you're telling me you can't do yours by just crossing a bridge? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You're going. You're absolutely going. And that changed everything. That absolutely changed everything. It shined a huge light on how crippling I was allowing this stuff to be. And notice what I just said. How crippling I was allowing this stuff to be. So I did something really interesting to overcome this. So it was on a Sunday. It's up on the board. It was on April 7th. So on Saturday the 6th, I went to Sam's Club and I bought little tiny lemon cakes. I bought a big jar of Raisinets. I bought a case of Gatorade because I know how my brain works. I know that I have to take these things to the people who are going to be at the class, to the people who are going to run the class. I know that I have to do this. It's not so much that I have to go to the course. It's not so much that I have to cross the bridge. I now have given myself a task where I have to make sure this stuff gets to those people on Sunday morning. Well, son of a bitch, it worked. It actually totally worked. I was actually super excited about how excited everyone was going to be at all these snacks, because we're going to be sitting in courses most of the day, looking at PowerPoints, and we're going to need that sugar to keep us going through the whole thing. So I knew that what I was doing was going to bring a positive benefit to what we were doing as a whole. It worked. Totally worked. I got it. I started getting really super excited about going. I can't wait. I can't wait to go. This is going to be super fun. I got in the car, and wouldn't you know it, I'm listening to Becky G and Pitbull on the on the radio, because I love Pitbull. Sorry, just love him. And I realize I'm on the bridge, but I don't really notice so much because I'm so excited about going to West Point and bringing all this stuff and doing, being around all these people. And the music was great. That I'm like, wow, I'm on this bridge. This is awesome. So I'm without words almost about it. So then I got to drive back. Totally fine. Totally fine. I was just driving home from West Point. It wasn't that I was driving home over a bridge to West Point. No, I was just driving home from West Point. I had conquered the beast. Now, could I do it again? Well, yes, I could, because I decided after I got home, or on the drive home, once I had gotten over the bridge coming home from the course, that, you know what, I really want to go up there. Maybe I'll go in 2 weeks again, and maybe I'll make it like a 2-week thing. So 2 weeks ago, I went over and shot on my own personal time, and then came right back. I'm actually super excited about it, because I go at like 9 in the morning. I leave at 9 in the morning. So I make it. Yeah, I know. This is about fitness and mental health. I go to the McDonald's. I go to the McDonald's right outside of base and I get breakfast, which I love McDonald's breakfast. I don't eat it all the time. I eat it once every 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, it's a whole like cool little thing that I can do. I can hop in the car, I can go to McDonald's, grab my breakfast, go to the onto West Point, onto base, eat my breakfast, and then go inside and shoot. And then I came right back home like it was nothing. And on top of that, the last time I was there, they were doing construction. So normally that would have been something where I'd be like all flustered and crazy, but it wasn't. It didn't work out that way because that's just the way I drive to West Point. It's no longer an impediment. It's no longer something I'm afraid of. Going to West Point means more to me than being afraid of that bridge. So yeah, I guess basically what I'm trying to tell you is that you can overcome these fears. Don't let someone tell you, don't let someone put into your brain that there are things that you can't do. Because there's always a way to get things done. And I go over bridges now. So there you go. All right, that's pretty much I wanted to tell you that story because I thought it would be helpful to those of you who are dealing with anxiety, those of you who are dealing with things that you want to do but can't do. Maybe wanting to go into the military, but you're afraid. Maybe you've been in the military and there are things that you're dealing with that you're refraining from doing now because you're afraid. Fear is okay. Fear is normal. Just know that fear is something that you can overcome. And if you want, always reach out to me. I'll do what I can to help you. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Again, this podcast was brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. We got a bunch of new merchandise. Camo hats. We got new multicam hats in... We already had black and this arid one, but we got a regular multicam. I had that on the last episode. Plus, we got a bunch of other color hats. And then we got, if you can see them in the back, we've got the Flex Fit ones too, which are great for working out. And then we've also got all of our, whatchamacallit, exercise videos coming up in about 2 weeks. I'm going to be filming all of those videos for a special members area for the site. So if you want, check it out. It's going to be real cheap. It's going to be split into 3 tiers, tier 3, 2, and 1. 3 is for people who want to join the military. 2 is for people who want to join the military and go into combat arms like infantry, Marine Corps. And then tier 1 is for people who want to go to selections. So I'm not guaranteeing that you will graduate from BUDS, Ranger School, all that stuff, but you will be in shape. So being out of shape won't be an excuse. So tier 3 and tier 2 are going to be $9.99 a month, and tier 1 is going to be $19.99 a month. So be on the lookout for it. All right, that is all that I've got for you guys. Later.